Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners.
I always say that with freedom, because you have the freedom, you got the checkbook, with freedom comes responsibility. So it's very important to understand the rules.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And guess what? I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I'm super excited to welcome you back to today's conversation. It's another action-packed, awesome, get your pen and paper out because it's going to be really, really cool. And we're going to get to it really, really quickly because first and foremost, I want to thank you for continuing to share, tagging us across social media, LinkedIn and Instagram. You all have been doing this, it's really, really cool. So thank you for that. We'll continue to get in touch with you, share it with family and friends. And also, if you haven't not had a chance to leave an honest written review as well as rating, take just a couple seconds to do that. We even have a cool little video for you to check out on the Apple Podcast platform. Would really appreciate that. And for those of you who are looking to check out some of the previous episodes, you heard it, there was an amazing guest that you still haven't been able to find on your favorite podcast platform. Just go to firstgencp.com/podcasts. You can find every single podcast that we've ever done, and they're all there. firstgencp.com/podcasts. And we would, you can check out everything that you want to check out there. So listen, if you wanted to understand how you can get more control of your funds that are locked in this qualified funds jail, you wanted to be able to break them out. You want to be able to figure out how you can invest in things that you truly understand, where you have more freedom and responsibility. Today's guest is really going to help to lay that out for you, exactly what you can be doing. We're going to be speaking to Dmitriy Fomichenko, and we're going to get to that conversation just after this. So if you want to know how having the right sense can go a long way to improving your long distance investing journey, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because today's amazing guest not only is a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, a private lender, as well as a real estate investor himself, he also began in the financial planning as well as real estate industry in his career in 2000. So I guess he's got a lot of experience that he's going to share with us. Probably a lot of things that he's done well, things that he's seen not go so well, and it's all going to benefit you. He also decided to find a solution to a common problem that people that were in his mentoring area near him were having. He's been a contributor to Forbes as well, and he is the president of Sense Financial Services, LLC. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Dmitriy Fomichenko. Dmitry, welcome to the show.
Billy, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to our chat.
Likewise. That makes two of us. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I know the things that you are doing and the impact that you've made on so many lives already is going to be very, very beneficial to the entire Going Long family. So let's jump into our very first question. And Dmitry, I know we were talking before that, I'm going to ask you 2 questions in the beginning. I'm going to ask you 3 in the end. And in the middle, Dmitry, I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions because you have loads of experience. I just don't know what those questions are yet. So let's jump into question number 1 and help us understand, where is it that you call home in the U.S.?
Well, I live in Southern California.
Wow, Southern California. So you know what? I guess you're going to like the sunshine a little bit because I love it here in Barcelona.
Yeah. We actually get some pretty hot couple of months during the summer. We just passed them. The good part of September was that, but we were over it and the temperature cooled off and it's really nice here now.
Yeah. That makes the same here for me as well. So let's get into question number 2, which is, I love talking about positive things. And so, Dmitry, I would love for you to share, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Well, I was thinking about this, Billy, and it's actually a positive thing that happens to me every day and almost every moment. But to answer your question is that this morning I woke up, I'm alive, I'm breathing, and I'm just have to remind myself that God gives me a breath. Every breath that I take is a gift from God. And I'm thankful for that. And that helps me keep the right attitude and actually value every hour, every minute of my time. And I'm trying to live that to the fullest because, again, every breath that I take is a gift.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. And it's many times, Dmitry, it's those very, very simple things when we can just recognize them. And the fact that you're recognizing that and you're also sharing that with us is something that really, really appreciate it. So being able to have another breath every single day that you get to do that is something that is absolutely makes you fortunate. So listen, Dmitry, also, I need to actually, well, one, thank you for sharing that. And then the other thing is I have to tell you a little bit something about me that the entire Going Long family knows already. I am someone who is a recovering perfectionist. And what that means is I usually try to do things that are like, sometimes most people would say, why would you even do that? It's not even possible to do that. Something like trying to tell your entire backstory, Dmitry. I tried to tell it in like 2.5 seconds. I was never going to be able to tell your backstory in 2.5 seconds because you've done way too much. You've impacted way too many lives. So sorry for trying to do that, but it's just this kind of defect that I have as a recovering perfectionist, number one. But also, I'm going to ask you for your help. If you could you please tell your backstory and tell it in your own words? And yes, Dmitry, because you're our special guest, you can take a lot longer to tell your backstory. You take the time that you need. And then also, if you could help us to understand, because I think this is really important for the Going Long family to understand, what are some of the major decisions that you made along the way to help you get to this point in your journey? And then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Yeah, so I guess going back, as I told you, I live in Southern California. I've been here for almost 25 years actually. This month, actually in 5 days, it's going to be my 24, okay. I believe. I immigrated in this beautiful country, the best on the planet Earth, I believe, back in 1996. Wow. But so I'm obviously I'm not from here originally. I immigrated here from Russia. Actually, was born in Kazakhstan, but lived all my life in Russia and until I was 22, and then I moved here with my family. So I met my beautiful wife here, and my background is in electromechanical engineering. That's what I went to school for. That's where I worked. And then actually moving here in the US, I translated my degree and worked in the field for several years. But then through a number of circumstances, I was actually kind of forced out of that, and which I'm thankful for. I got into financial services. And then about the same time, I got introduced to real estate investing. And so I started that, and then a few years later, I actually made a shift full-time into real estate. I started working for a local real estate investment company as one of the mentors, advisors, and then during the last downturn in the real estate market and the economy, 2008-9, basically I was given a task to start a department handling self-directed retirement accounts, because we as a company, we worked with several companies that were providing this kind of service, and none of them really worked out long term. So because I had the experience, I have the expertise and knowledge in that. Obviously, I had to learn a lot more, meet with some of the industry experts. And so that's kind of the history of the birth of Sense Financial Services. And so I did that as basically in being working for a company. And then about a year later, I went out on my own. So started Sense Financial in 2010, and the rest is the history. And so that's our focus, which is helping our clients unlock their retirement accounts, basically. Because for most people, if they have a conventional retirement account, it's in a prison. So we help them jailbreak their IRA or 401k, because they're very limited as far as the investment options. So feel free to ask me any questions about any of those details.
Yeah, sure, man. And you know what? And it's one of those things that I don't know if you're not watching the video version, you should check out the video version, just because he said as soon as he's helping people to break their money out of 401k or IRA jail, it just put a smile on my face from like ear to ear, because this is one this is one of these things, qualified funds that are trapped. You can't touch them for 40 years, or you're very limited in terms of what you are able to do to get to your financial and investing destination. And Dmitry is someone who can help you. His company can help you to understand more about how you can break them out of jail. You mentioned a couple of things though, and it kind of, I want to go back to you getting into the financial services industry. You pivoted because as an electrical engineer, you made that move. And then you also decided to get into real estate investing. Just out of curiosity, as you started to look into the financial services and real estate investing kind of at the same time, what was it that actually even brought your attention to real estate investing, given that you'd probably not even been in the US that long, probably less than a decade at that point in time, and you're looking at real estate? And I only say that because I've been living in Spain for the last 21 years, and I did have a very small amount of time when I looked at it, but I haven't looked at it since then. Maybe what spurred the interest in real estate investing?
Well, the financial services aspect that was probably more commonly known, and I already had known some of it, and so it was somewhat of a natural transition, and I started with that, and then maybe a year or two later I was introduced to the concept of real estate investing. Actually, I met someone at college who told me about local real estate investment meetup and invited me there. So that was, I think that singular event was, really historical to me, because just being invited to that meeting started the whole, really changed my life, I will say, because I started coming to those meetings and just learning about real estate investing. It eventually got me started in real estate investing myself, and then led me to starting my own business. So again, it was somebody just introduced me. I came, I listened, I liked that. I liked I got exposed to some of the, ideas, and it attracted me.
Yeah. So that's really, really interesting, because one of the things that I also recognize is, as to your point, you recognize you were open-minded. You were invited to go to this real estate investment association meeting. I'm adding that part, but you decided to go, right? And when you went there, you began to receive more education and understand. So that kind of happens on one side. I guess I'm always curious, because whenever I learn about real estate here locally in Spain, it's very different than back where I was in the US. And so sometimes there are things that I recognize that there are specific opportunities, and I realized that there were some of the kind of drawbacks. Did you find yourself in the very beginning, when you were coming into this new real estate space? I don't know if you were doing that when you were living before you got to the US, but if you were not investing in real estate before you got to the US, how much of that were you saying, okay, well, it's not like this where I first came from, and it is here. So you see also different opportunities that, had you not made that decision to go to those meetings, you would have never recognized?
Well, I did not have any experience or even knowledge about real estate investing prior to coming to the US. And again, it happened several years after me coming to the US. That's when I got exposed to this and just started learning. But it was just a completely new aspect for me. Okay. And just, not just real estate investing, but what it can do for you. That it can provide you with the freedom, it can provide you with the financial, security, potentially financial independence.
Yeah, perfect. Love that. So, and I'm going to now, just want to ask you one other thing, because this goes to the heart of what we do here at the Going Long podcast, is really helping. I think it's more mindset, really helping on each one of our Going Long family members to understand that, hey, listen, you know what? Don't let geography be a limiting factor in terms of where you decide to invest your time, your energy, your capital, things like that. I happen to know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you had or have your California license in terms of real estate investing. Is that, as a realtor, is that correct?
I have my broker's license, which I actually had the opportunity to get when I was working as an employee for my previous employer before starting a business. I don't really need it now, but yeah, it's a California real estate broker's license.
Okay, so you have a broker's license, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And also at the same time, if our sources are correct, you also have done something that's very contrarian, very similar to me, by the way, Dmitry. I understand that you've also decided to invest outside of your backyard, and meaning that you invest in places outside of Southern California where you are, which is music to my ears and all of those that are here part of the Going Long family. At the same time, I recognize that that's something that's very contrarian, because most of the books, Dmitry, and you probably agree with this, that we would read early on were saying, hey, listen, if you're going to buy a piece of real estate, it should be in the same place, like the 2-hour rule or the 2-block rule or whatever, the 2-neighborhood rule. But you decided to do something very similar to many of the people that are watching and listening today, is to go against the grain, to go and do something contrarian. So I always love to have you share, what was it that gave you the strength to be able to say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to invest in a real asset that is not actually here in my backyard in Southern California. It may be in a different state. It may be 4 or 5 hours away. What was it that gave you that strength?
Well, it was actually, again, when I started coming to those meetings, the organization that put that on, it was actually a network of real estate agents and property managers in many different parts of the U.S. And so I got introduced to this concept early on, pretty much from the very beginning, that you can invest outside of your backyard. Actually, for me, I ended up buying, obviously my residence first. And again, that was after attending those meetings. I ended up buying a residence, and then I ended up buying a first investment property, which was about an hour away from me. But that was the beginning. And then after that, I was able to leverage equity I just started buying properties outside of California, basically to more than 2,000 miles away. And it's having the right team. That's really the key. If it's a single family rental, you got to have a property manager in place. And it's really the key, having the right team to manage that. And I've experienced both. I had great experience, and I did not have a good experience as well. When again, not having the right property manager made all the difference.
Yeah, and so when you start thinking about having the right team in place, and specifically you talk about having the right property manager in place, but I'm going to bring it back to the team, right? Having the right team in place to help you understand what are the different assets that you have that can help you get to your investing destination sooner. We're specifically talking right now, Dmitry, about real estate. At the same time, I tend to believe that you also need to have a very strong team just to help you recognize in your overall portfolio all types of assets. How can you best leverage each one of the assets that you have? I know that that's something that I do, and say, okay, well, maybe there are different vehicles that I haven't been aware of. I was working for a really big company and many big companies for a really, really long time. I just after 26 years of no longer working in the corporate world. But while I was in the corporate world, I knew that I was, for a while early on, I was consistently contributing to my qualified plan, right? At the time, it was a 401k, and then I did it outside of that into an IRA and things like that. So I know that we talked about early on, like at Sense Financial Services LLC, this is one of the team members that can help someone understand the different assets. So maybe if you could help us understand, when we think about self-directed IRAs, or even think about checkbook IRAs or solo 401ks, which I know is something that you help, just in general, help us to be educated around different qualified plans. Can you talk to us at the very highest level as a new team member, right? Looking for team members to help us identify where we have different assets that can help us get to our destination sooner. Talk to us about how you're helping people today, Sense Financial Services LLC, in the types of qualified plans that you can help people to understand the different value that they can potentially unlock.
Yeah, so essentially, as I mentioned, if you have a conventional retirement account, an IRA or a 401k or any other employer-sponsored plan such as 403b or 457 pension perhaps, then it is locked in a prison. And what I mean by that is you have a custodian for your account, and the custodian limit the investment choices or investment options for you. And they're limited to, and they're always confined to the stock market. Okay. And many people actually believe that's all they can do. They can only invest in the stock market, in equities, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. But if you look at the IRS code, what the IRS says about this, it can be nothing further from the truth. In fact, IRS doesn't give a list of investments that they approve. There is no such list. IRS does not approve any investments, whether it's stocks or otherwise. What IRS does is that they actually give you a list of prohibited transactions or transactions that they do not allow you to use your retirement accounts to invest in. And that's basically confined to the collectibles and the life insurance contracts. So those are the only two investments that you cannot make. But your custodian, when you go to Schwab or Fidelity and you open an account, they're in business to sell equities, or that's their platform. So, and they place in their custodial agreement, they place those limitations. They don't allow you to use your IRA to invest in anything else using their platform. That's why the only choices are equities there. But you can actually set up, quote unquote, a self-directed account with not with the conventional custodian, where you don't have the limitations and you can invest in pretty much anything that you want. The list is really limitless, but you do want to invest in something that you understand and have more control. And certainly there is investment assets out there that gives you more control than the stock market. I mean, you've seen what happened with the stock market. If you watching at all or just listening to the news, or if you have invested investments in the market, then you've seen it's probably 20-30% drop just this year. Okay, and guess what? You and we have no control over the stock market. Now, if we employ certain strategies, and that's actually the reason I got out of financial planning, because I would basically help my clients invest in those conventional investments. And I did not have a way to control those investments, and my clients did not have the control over those investments. And I just wasn't comfortable continue recommending those investments. So that's why I got out.
Well, when you make that type of a switch and you decide, hey, listen, you don't want to be in this area, you want to be able to help people to be able to have more control investing in the types of assets. And I think this is one thing that you said that I want to reiterate to the entire Going Long family. It's into assets that you understand. There's also one of the things you talked about understanding, you talked about control. Can you talk to the point of responsibility on the individual who has control? Because I think that's also too, and I know when I was in my corporate role, there's this concept of, hey, listen, you just do it, it's quick and you don't have to worry about it too much. But I do want you, before we dive into a little bit more about what these self-directed IRAs are, is just talk about the responsibility that the individual has as well when they're investing in things, in assets that they control and understand.
Well, obviously, Billy, when you can control your self-directed IRA, and what we actually do is we give you a quote-unquote checkbook control, which is you literally have a checking account and checkbook, and you can write the check and make the investment. So there is no middleman in between. But I always say that with freedom, because you have the freedom, you got the checkbook, with freedom comes responsibility. So it's very important to understand the rules, and it's not a rocket science. Okay, you don't need to become an engineer to do that or something like that. The rules are pretty straightforward, and you can certainly tap into the other resources that are available to help. So if you're going to work with us, we provide all this kind of help, and we can answer any questions for this. And I always tell my clients, listen, if you're not sure about something, ask before. That's the key. Ask before doing this. Okay, if you consider making an investment, you're not sure, well, just reach out to us. Talk to me. Send me a text. My client have my number. They can text me. So send me a text message and say, hey, I want to do this. Is that going to get me into any trouble? Because guess what? Once you make a mistake, it can be, with an IRA particularly, it will disqualify the entire IRA. Now, I don't want to scare you off here. I'm just trying to make a point that it's important to understand, the responsibility.
Yeah, and so it's important to understand the responsibility, Dmitry. But I want to come back to the thing that you said even earlier, was it's about having the right team, right? Because once again, this is about how are we helping the Going Long family to understand, and it is no different when you are in it with a team and you're working with a high performing team. It's important to share the plan before you start to execute the plan, because if you want to do something that your team is not equipped to do, it's better to know that, to your point, Dmitry, before, versus trying to get halfway through the play and recognizing you don't have the tools, or you put yourself in the very, very difficult decision or position of being able to win the game. Exactly. If you can talk to your team in advance, going back to one of the things that Dmitry mentioned earlier, you're just putting yourself in the best possible position. Yeah. So, Dmitry, I do want to come back to this. There is one kind of concept, and when I went to your website, and I would recommend that the Going Long family take a look at you got a lot of educational material there. There's this common understanding, or maybe misunderstanding, of when we start talking about qualified plans and being able to manage them yourself, having more control. You hear things like self-directed IRA, you hear about things like checkbook IRA, you hear about things like solo 401k. Are these all the same thing? Are they different? And if they're different, like, what should someone be aware of just education-wise so that they can try to figure out, okay, well, which is the best option for me to start to learn more about?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we probably don't have enough time.
Yeah.
on this,
high level, remember, high level.
To get into all of that. And, I have some videos that actually go into deeper into details, explaining exactly what the differences are and advantages of each. And, but I would like to offer this to your listeners, that if you have some questions, you can reach out to our office, and I'm willing to give you a free consultation. I can talk to you about your specific situation and help you determine. Again, you can find some videos that actually me explaining. I do have those presentations explaining the difference. But even after that, watching that video, you still might have some questions, because you may need some guidance, determine what's best for you. But the bottom line is, if you have money in a retirement account, you can take control over them. What will be the best vehicle? Again, I can help you determine that. It's going to take more than just a few minutes here. So that's why feel free to reach out. And like you said, Billy, tap into the resources that are available for you. And I'm this resource for my clients, and I'm happy to be that resource for your listeners as well.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. And it just goes back to the point of being able to understand what is the right vehicle for you, and being able to access education first and foremost, so that you can, you take a look at some of the videos that Dmitry has on his website. He also has, written information that you could take a look at, so that when you have a conversation with him or someone from his team, then you go in more informed. So when you ask better questions, you get better responses typically, right? At least you are, because you're much more informed. So, and there are a lot of different things a lot of different types of vehicles that exist. And one, you have the exposure. So we've even talked about it: high level, self-directed IRA, checkbook IRA, solo 401k, all of these different things. To Dmitry's point, what are the pros? What are the cons? And which of these vehicles could be the best for you, given the context of your life right now, and also the destination that you want to be able to go to? Just maybe a couple of other questions, and these are probably a little bit easier questions, but that you can answer in a shorter time period. But you mentioned earlier that there were there were certain types of investments that you could not make. You talked about collectibles, you talked about life insurance. But can you maybe talk to the other point about certain types of transactions that you cannot actually make? Because I think that would also be very helpful from an education standpoint.
Yeah, so basically with Self Directed I.R.A., you can invest in virtually anything except collectibles and life insurance. So those are the only two investment types that are prohibited. You can, I'll just to give you an example. Okay, again, this is an example. This is by no means an exact list, but
and also to everybody. And this is just a general thing. So Dmitry, thank you for reminding me because I forgot to say this. Dmitry and I are only talking about examples, concepts. We are in no way, shape, or form giving anyone any type of financial advice. So all of these concepts, ideas, the idea is for you to be able to take this education, speak to your specific tax teams, your specific legal teams, and understand how these concepts and ideas fit your specific situation. As Dmitry mentioned before, he also has consultation where he can talk to you about some of these concepts in more detail about your specific situation. So sorry about that. I forgot to mention that at the very beginning.
Sure,
Go right ahead.
Yes. Yeah, so again, to give you some examples, residential real estate here in the US for my clients who are US based, obviously. Also, some of my clients invested outside of the US. I have clients who purchased real estate in South America, in Mexico, and also in Canada. I have a client who purchased real estate in Japan. I have a client who purchased real estate in actually in Europe. Okay, so you can do all of that. You can buy investment anywhere, but it goes beyond just the real estate, or you can do commercial real estate. You can invest into self-storage facilities or even funds or multifamily real estate deals as a general partner. You can invest in other types of investments, not just real estate. You can purchase precious metals, gold and silver and so on. There is, again, certain qualification there. And you can do other things, like very popular, something that I'm personally doing with my retirement funds is being a private lender, where I actually prefer using my retirement funds not to own real estate, but to be a bank. So you can be the bank, or your IRA can be the bank, and you can lend to people. You can also invest in things like cryptocurrency, being popular, controversial, but you can do that. So again, but to answer your question, what are the limitations? Well, IRS defines that there is certain people who are disqualified to the plan, and disqualified persons is the owner of the IRA or 401k, the spouse of the account owner, his parents, grandparents, children and grandchildren, and their spouses. So immediate family members cannot be involved in the transaction. So for example, if you buy a vacation rental property in Florida, for example, you personally cannot go and stay there with your family. Your parents cannot stay there. If you have your father, who's maybe owns a construction company, and you buy in a fixer-upper, your father cannot do a work on the property. If you're a real estate agent, you cannot be acting as a real estate agent on the transaction that your IRA is involved. So disqualified person cannot be involved in the transaction.
Okay, fantastic. So I appreciate you helping us understand the types of specific vehicles that may be prohibited, and also the types of individuals that may be prohibited from being a part of the transaction. And what it sounds like is also there's not a specific individual benefit that you can take from using your IRA to invest, as you mentioned in that very concrete example, in a property that you plan on vacationing in. IRS would not like that. So that makes a lot of sense. One other thing that I would like to speak to you, or have you speak to us about, just for people to keep in mind before we get into the going long final three, because it's about time to do that. Talk to us about how leverage or using a loan could potentially impact being able to invest in something. I know a lot of times we look at investing in a syndication with our 401 or with our self-directed IRAs and things like that. Just to be aware, like what are some of the things that you want to be aware of when doing that potentially?
Well, leverage can make a tremendous difference. And actually, I a number of years ago, I was, I guess I was influenced maybe by some of the Dave Ramsey teaching. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, which he makes a lot of sense in a number of things. But when it comes to investing, it's just not his area. He's basically talking just to normal people who just live a normal life and they have some debt, and it's totally in place. But when you invest in, leverage can make a big difference. You have to obviously be careful with that and not over leverage yourself, because you can go from one extreme to another. Because leverage can make a huge difference, because you can really jumpstart your investing. I was just talking to my brother-in-law yesterday, who came to visit, and we had a chat. He actually pulled out equity from his home at less than 3% interest, and because he made the investment into something, and he's expecting this money back. And he said, well, what do I do with the money? Do I pay back the loan? I said, it will be actually kind of foolish to pay off this extremely low, it's like almost cheap money, where you can actually, and I showed him that you can take this money and you can, with very, very little risk, you can get 9-10% on your money. So, and that 6% is like you get them from nothing. But so when it comes to investing, you certainly can use leverage. You just need to be wise about this.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about before. When you have the freedom to take and have control, you just also need to be aware of the responsibility. There are a lot of different things that I think it's important for you to. As an investor, someone who would be using these types of funds, just be aware of, is there leverage involved? Is it not? And have that conversation with your team member, as Dmitry was talking to us about earlier. So, Dmitry, here's the thing, man. Like, this time flies by, but we have to get into the going long final three. And the thing is, because you're our special guest, I never ask anyone the going long final three unless you tell me that you're ready. So my question to you is, are you ready?
Sure. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be ready. I had a sneaky suspicion. So here's the thing, Dmitry. We started with you over in Southern California. I'd like to bring it back to my new adopted side of the pond. Originally, I'm from Columbus, Ohio, but I'm over here now, over in Europe. So I would love for you to share with us, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
I'm gonna pick it from those that I did visit in the past. Maybe we'll spare city from my bucket list to next time, but it's Riga in Latvia.
Ooh, wow! This
is a Baltic areas. I visited that city or that area when it still was. I believe it still was part of the Soviet Union at the time, but it was very different. Me coming from Voronezh, I actually used to work on the train, and I would go back in Russia because the college that I graduated was a railroad type of college, so I was working with railroad systems.
Okay, fantastic.
And, railroad was very developed back in the former Soviet Union and back in Russia. And so that was a very memorable experience. I still have some souvenirs and some things that remind me of that around me. Yeah. And so Latvia, Riga is a pretty cool place to see a beautiful place.
All right. Perfect. So we're going to add that, and it will be in the show notes. So Riga, Latvia, which is, I think it's the first time we've had Riga as our favorite European city. So awesome. So thank you for that. And question number 2, it really has to go with a lot of just experiences that you've had, right? And it's really about understanding, like each and every one of us goes through these trial and error, right? We have these ideas that we want to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm going to go out and I want to make sure that, I'm trying new things. And as a result of trying new things, well, sometimes we make mistakes and sometimes we don't make mistakes, but more often than not, and I'm sure this has probably been your case, because with high achievers, which you are, you tend to go out and you have a plan, you want to execute the plan. And then, well, along the way, some things don't work out exactly as they're supposed to. And so I'm sure that this has happened to you at least once, where maybe something didn't work out right. And you probably, like most people that are high achievers, you stopped and you learned from the mistake that happened or the mistake that you made. And you then went out and you put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place so that, the same thing didn't happen again. So I really would love for you to share, not the mistakes that happen, the mistake that happened to you, if you had to think of one mistake, but really what is the one lesson that you took away from that learning experience that would be invaluable for someone today here and as part of the Going Long family?
Yeah, well, since we're talking about investing and maybe real estate specifically, I'm going to use that example because I think it helped me and it will help you. And wise people, what do? They learn from other people's mistakes. Okay, so you don't have to repeat the same mistake that I did. Learn from my experience. Okay, so think about this. But basically, I made some mistakes in the past, in the beginning of my real estate investment career, where I over-leveraged and basically just acquire more than I could, or try to bite more than I could chew, so to speak, right? And the lesson that I learned from that is you need to understand the difference between investing and speculation.
Love it.
Okay. Yeah. So I was basically kind of chasing a speculation. I was kind of in that mood, and that really set me back, set me apart, but it was, it was very valuable lesson. It was expensive lesson, but it was very good lesson. I'm glad it happened to me because I won't be where I'm at now without that. So know the difference between investing and speculation.
Absolutely appreciate that about you, Dmitry. You paid full price for that learning experience, and now you are sharing it to everyone as part of the Going Long family at a severe discount. So thank you for sharing that, and just once again recognizing the difference between investing as well as speculating, right? There's a place for both of them, and just recognize what you are doing when you're doing it. So last question, this will kind of wrap things up for us today, Dmitry. Would love for you to share something that will help to increase the knowledge, and doing that through reading. What is one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
Well, I've thought about this, and this may be a book that you and others have heard likely, but I'm gonna bring that up again because it actually comes up, in me just talking to people, even teaching my daughter, these concepts. And this is a book by Robert Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Quadrant. Okay. And again, you may have heard of that, but maybe it's time for you to revisit those concepts, even mentally, even if you're just going to do that mentally without necessarily reading the book or just looking at that actual diagram, looking at the left side of the quadrant and the right side of the quadrant. And I'm teaching my daughter, look, you can be on the right side. You can create a system that runs for you, and you can be an investor. You can have your money working for you, but you got to start somewhere. And you start on the left side, but you want to have a goal. You want to transition. Again, it was very valuable to me. I read that, probably 20 years ago, or so. Maybe not quite, but almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it's
still applicable even today.
Yeah, definitely.
Just one thing maybe to add to that is especially what I experienced in the last couple of years, because I've been making some investments. I own a number of rental properties, and then when I started this business, I transitioned into private lending just with my portfolio, and that just increased my income. I was looking for ways to how can I minimize my tax liability, because I was paying, have to write checks every year. Was painful. And so I basically transitioned into commercial real estate, multifamily syndications, primarily with my personal investments. And just last couple of years, it's been just mind-boggling for me. It's hard to believe. I looked at my tax bracket this year. It was 0.5%. Because of all the phantom losses that I was able to use to offset my income. Can be very powerful, and that's how wealthy people get even more wealthier, because their income increases, but their tax liability increases. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just and it goes back to what you said earlier, Dmitry. It is about having the right team on board to help to advise you so that you understand what are the different options that you have that you can take, right? Because if you don't have the right team on board, you are more than likely going to do what everybody else has done and what you've always done, and you're going to continue to get the same results. I know that that's not going to happen for you because you're here, you're listening, you're watching, and you're listening to the things that Dmitry's sharing with you, and you're going, okay, well, yeah, you know what? Let me find out more about this. Who's the right person on my team to be here? Who can help me navigate through the different money that I have trapped in this qualified plans jail to be able to break it out and stuff like that. So listen, Dmitry, man, I'm just going to the very beginning, like 1996, you moved to the US. It reminds me, 2001, I moved here to Spain, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Sounds like you have enjoyed it coming over as an electrical engineer. You have had the opportunity, when life happened to you, you were gifted the opportunity to move into a new space. You learned more about the financial services industry, more about real estate investing. You decided to take action to learn more about how these new concepts, real estate initially, could help you. But then you've also understood that we didn't even talk about the trillions that are actually stuck in these qualified plan jails, that you're helping people to understand through your own experience, really not just learning about it, but doing it yourself. You've built out a platform to help to educate people to be able to go in and either watch videos or listen to things or read things. And that is helping you and what you're doing in the company that you started in 2010 with Sense Financial Services. And listen, everybody's thinking to themselves, yeah, Billy, just ask him the question, man. So here's the thing, Dmitry. Everybody at the Going Long family wants to understand, how can they find out more about you? How can they find out more about what you're doing at Sense Financial Services, LLC, and things like that? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to our website, which is sensefinancial.com, and sense is like common sense, because the things that we are talking about, they're common sense financial things. They do make sense, right? So sensefinancial.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Bigger Pockets. So those are the three platforms on social media that I primarily use in. But you can reach out. And again, if you want to talk to me, I do have a complimentary consultation available to everyone who's listening to this, and happy to talk to you. And I'm passionate about this. I don't have to work. I was able to, because of the business and the investments that I made, I was able to reach that level of being financially independent. I don't have to work, but I enjoy. What would I do? So I enjoy doing what I'm doing and helping people. I'm practicing what I'm preaching. So what I'm talking to you about, that's what I'm doing myself.
All right.
But,
absolutely.
And one other thing is that just want to encourage you, you might be, again, something to piggyback on what you said earlier, is that you don't have to invest in your backyard. Okay. If you have the resources to invest, there are teams and systems that can be put in place that will enable you to be successful. So don't let that stop you. Keep learning and keep connecting with people, and that will help you be successful. Keep persevering.
All right. Absolutely fantastic. Dmitry, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And also, Going Long family, when you reach out to Dmitry, especially on the LinkedIn platform, make sure that you send him a personalized invitation. It will just help the two of you, because you will let him know that you've already been watching and listening here on the Going Long podcast. It will make the continuity of your conversation much easier. So listen, Dmitry, just on behalf of the entire Going Long family, I want to say thank you very much for deciding to invest your time with me, with us, and really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And Dmitry, give me just like 15 seconds. We'll wrap things up. Going Long family, listen, Dmitry, he just shared with you new ideas, new concepts. He's even talked to you about the website he has. Listen, take today's conversation, share it with friends, share it with family, talk about the concepts that Dmitry shared with you. Go to his website, download the videos, read them, talk to your family and friends so that you can take the theory, put it into practice, and heck, reach out to him. He's giving you a complimentary call. And so while you're doing these things, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.